bring you progressive voices from America's heartland. This is Ed Fallon, your host, and we're coming to you from Des Moines, Iowa. All right, later in the program, we're going to be talking about why Democrats have lost rural America and working class voters with Charles Goldman. Charles will also join us for a conversation about how Iowa's governor and several other governors around the country have been dutifully following President Trump down the rabbit hole. And I also want to talk about an anti-meat crusade that has become kind of interesting because part of it involves becoming anti-local, which is confusing to me. We'll talk about that. And then for the final segment, Kathy Burns will join us. We're going to talk about a New Year's resolution suggestion, waste less, want less. There we go. But first, I'm really happy to welcome Hannah Bacon to the program. Hannah is walking across the country for climate action. She just got done with California, is in Arizona, and I think is doing okay. Hello, Hannah. How are you?
Hey, Ed. I'm great. How are you?
We're doing well. We're covered with snow up here, and I imagine you're in slightly warmer country.
Yeah, slightly. Windy, beautiful, sunny. But it's nice to hear about the snow, just to get my mind out of the desert.
Okay, well, we're happy to help you out there. So you started from the Pacific Ocean, I believe.
I did, from San Clemente State Beach.
Yeah, and your motivation, I mean, you're from the East Coast. You're from, I believe, Connecticut?
Mm-hmm, that's right.
But you flew to the West Coast and then had kind of an aha moment and decided you would walk home. And I don't think I'm overstating that, correct?
Correct, yeah. It was
so what was that
exactly
aha? What was that aha moment all about?
Well, I came out here to visit some friends. I used to live in Santa Cruz, California, and I had all the intentions in the world of just flying back after 2 weeks. But I was reading The Uninhabitable Earth by David Wallace Wells while I was on the plane out there, and I was having a lot of feelings about my carbon footprint. And then I landed kind of distraught about the impact of my cross-country travels over the years. And I was hiking in Santa Cruz by myself, and really it just hit me that I decided I didn't want to fly anymore and that I would walk.
So yeah, you picked an interesting book to read on the flight.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're planning to walk the entire way.
Mm-hmm.
And then finish where on the East Coast?
Virginia Beach.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And that should take you, I'm guessing, 6-7 months?
Yeah. I was thinking about 6, but just now, after going through California, taking a few more off days than expected, probably more like 7.
Yeah. And tell us about the walk across California. I know if you've been walking at certain times of the year, you might have been running into fire.
Yeah, well, I was lucky to not run into fire, but I did run into fire damage. So I had plans of going on some trails in the San Bernardino National Forest, but some of those were closed because of fire damage, which had created some sinkholes along the trail. I guess the trees had burned out, creating some pretty dangerous terrain. So I had to reroute there and try to find, like while you're on the road, trying to find the best route. But it was mostly road, but it was beautiful, and I met a lot of great people just along the way.
Yeah, and you've, again, part of your goal is but you're trying to raise funds for the Sunrise Movement, which is great. You're also trying to raise awareness as you walk. How are both of those goals coming along?
Well, the fundraising is going great. I wasn't sure what to set as a goal when I started out doing this. This is my first time really doing any fundraising. So I set the goal to 10,000, and we're just shy of 9,000 as of earlier today when I last checked. So yeah, that's going great, and I guess I will have to increase the goal, seeing as less than a month in.
Right.
So yeah.
Has the Sunrise Movement been supportive of your walk?
I haven't really heard a lot from them. When I first started doing this, I reached out and they were really excited, but they're really busy getting some other things going. They're really focusing right now on trying to get Ed Fallon to be the Secretary of the Interior.
Oh, right.
So, they have a full load going on.
And how about in terms of outreach along the way? Have you had have you been able to do some interviews, giving some talks?
I've had a few interviews. Yeah, since this whole idea kind of came on so quickly out of nowhere for me, I didn't have a lot of time to schedule outreach beforehand. But when I was walking through Joshua Tree area, the 29 Palms local paper came out and did a quick interview, and then the Yucca Valley TV heard about it and did a quick interview, so that was great. So I think that the more people hear about it, the more sort of interviewing and media is going to come up along the way.
Now you're walking a very different route than I walked with the Great March for Climate Action, except for the segment you're currently on. And I think you stayed at a place that we stayed at that was very memorable for me, and that was the Glass Outhouse.
Oh, yes. It's amazing.
Yeah. What was that like?
It was incredible, and thank you so much for putting me in touch with them, with Laurel, the owner. Just the coolest, funkiest, in the best way, artsy place you could imagine in the middle of the desert. Really unexpected because there's kind of nothing else around. So when you're going by, it's just desert land, and then all of a sudden you see bikes sticking out of the sand and cool glass sculptures and just the
and a glass outhouse, which is a little unnerving.
It is, but it's totally functional, and I found that you can see out when you're in it, but you can't see in.
Yeah, which is still unnerving.
It is. Yeah, you're kind of looking around.
So speaking of unnerving, you the glass outhouse is kind of the last friendly space at the edge of the world before you plunge into the Mojave Desert, which is 125 miles of desert. There's no services, no homes out there.
Yeah.
What was walking across that like?
It was intense, as you know, from crossing it yourself, and I called you, beforehand just to talk it out and see what it was like, and I was really concerned about doing it by myself, so I also appreciate that encouragement, because after talking to you, I was inspired to find someone to do it with me, and that definitely made it more bearable, because it gets to your head a little bit, just being out there with nothing around, especially if you're not a desert dweller natively.
Yeah.
So definitely helpful to have someone with me, but a lot of cool desert wildlife I got to learn about from my new friend Travis, who has a hiking business called Wandering Mojave.
Yeah.
He taught me a lot about the desert while we were out there.
So, how are you feeling about the situation regarding climate change these days? I mean, I think for those of us concerned about climate change, this will be an understatement, but I think we weren't real impressed with the Trump administration. But we have a change of guard in Washington D.C. now. How do you have some hope, some optimism based on that, or you think we're going to go back to the status quo and business as usual?
I am very hopeful, considering that there's going to be a climate administration. So that in and of itself is very hopeful. I think that the work that Sunrise Movement is doing, and I'm sure other organizations as well, to make sure that there's the right sort of people on the administration. I know it's going to be headed by John Kerry. That'll be important. But I am very hopeful, and I think that it's going to take everyone from government down, trickle down, to be doing everything that they can. And the fact that there's going to be a climate administration at all, I think is a really great way to set the tone going into the next 4 years of Biden. So I am hopeful.
Good. Well, and we're hopeful we're inspired and feeling hopeful by what you're doing. It's a big commitment, and I know from experience that you will have plenty of contact along the way with people who might not have been thinking about climate change until they ran into somebody walking the walk. Anyway, really impressed with your effort. And folks, if you want to get in touch with Hannah Bacon, I know There are several ways to do that. What do you recommend, Hannah?
Yeah, you can go to my website, which is milesforclimate.org. And from there, there's a reach out page. You can contact me, and also Miles for Climate on Instagram.
Great. Thank you so much, Hannah. Folks, we've been talking with Hannah Bacon, walking across the country for climate action.